Okay, hi everyone, we are on air. So, I guess let's let Mary Costa go first if you don't mind. I'm Jane Lawson, librarian, and get in the camera, Denise.
Former club president, but the next year the actual club president is, over there.
Well, I'm just next year's club president.
And your name is?
Nicholas Vasconcelos.
And we were expecting a few others, but this is what we have right now, huh?
Unfortunately, yeah.
So, and we're excited to have someone new. Do you want to say hello, Leah?
Hi, I'm Leah Lindeman. I'm librarian at, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Clear.
Outside Pittsburgh, and the district is called Black Hawk High School. And our academic awards banquet is tonight. So I am all by myself because all of our students are at the banquet. So hopefully this will go well, and then I can bring them all back next time.
Yeah, and we knew you were here, you know, visiting when we were sure you'll stay, but it's okay to come when you don't have students, right?
Thank you.
Thanks. And then I'm going to go sit back
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce you guys yourselves, or should we go? You've got kind of a big group, so if you want to go first.
You go first.
You go first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Rosemary O'Neill. Okay, give me a sec. When you forget your own name. I'm Riley. I'm a sophomore here at NCHS. Our club president couldn't join us today, but I'm a stand-in.
I'm Lily, and this is my first time here, and it's really cool.
And hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a little according to these guys. I'm the high school librarian here at New Canaan High School in Connecticut.
Hello.
And our pizza just arrived.
Yeah, I want some. And welcome, Lily.
Hi.
So how about New Caldwell?
We're West Caldwell James Caldwell High School in West Caldwell, New Jersey. And can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, and this is our group, so we'll go around.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I'm the co-president. I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Dan Brockman, and I'm a history teacher.
Hi, I'm Leo Chavez. Cool dude.
I'm Lillian Silver. I'm a sophomore.
I'm Liz Coogan-Russell, and I'm a Spanish teacher. You have to here I am.
I'm Nicole Tonelli, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Hannah Sweetser, and I'm the public librarian at West Caldwell.
I'm Vader Rivers. I'm a junior.
And
And the next president. Woo!
I'm Victoria Goldberg, and I'm a senior.
I'm Adicia, and I'm a senior.
Yay! So that's us.
yeah, you have equal enthusiasm.
Quite a crew, but I think James Caldwell has more than all the rest of us combined, but oh well.
Enthusiastic.
So, Christine, are you going to do the questions?
I would be honored to do the questions. All right, so we have several discussion questions for Winger, so I'm going to be the one reading it. So let's hope this starts off the discussion right now. What kind of social challenges does Ryan Dean have to overcome since he's 14 but a junior?
Oh my God.
Well,
I believe we have someone who can answer this personally.
I am 17.
He's a 17-year-old senior, and he actually who just
Oh,
I should
yeah.
just say
So we
just
have a
turned
look
17.
we have our
Hello.
own Brian Dean.
Yeah, I don't play rugby.
I like your shirt.
Thank you.
May the 4th be with you.
I had no idea.
What?
May the 4th be with you.
Oh, may the 4th be with
Yes,
you.
I've been saying that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean.
Just what challenges have you?
Challenges I face is just like kind of being behind on everything and just being called out for my age. Also, explaining it is annoying.
Yeah.
So you would say Ryan Dean has the same challenge?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
man, how'd that happen?
it's just the fact, like, I mean, nothing really changes because you do end up maturing with your peers. So I have matured at the same time as all my friends. But it's just the fact that I'm younger, that I got my license later, I mean, and it just happens later for me. But socially, nothing really. It's just kind of other additional things, like eligibility stuff.
Wait, you're 17? I'm 17, and I'm a senior.
Yeah, but I just turned 17.
Ah, okay. I was confused. All right.
Because I was like, wait, is that not the normal thing? Like,
You skipped a grade.
Yeah, I skipped a grade.
I think Ryan Dean also, at least the way it's described in the beginning, he looks very young.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or he
doesn't have a
looked
beard.
very young.
Before, like, getting messed up in the face.
Yeah.
The year before.
Yeah, so when he started school, he had looked very young the year before and had been, and I think also for a boy, that can be you can be a ninth grade boy that looks like you're 35, or you could also look like you're 12. So actually being 12.
Well, I mean, have you seen like the freshmen in the school?
I know.
Yes. They look like
They look like they're
5-year-olds.
5.
Yeah.
Some of them really do.
They're like clearly freshmen. So imagine being like a junior year trying to fit in. And you're
My
so
brother skipped a grade, and he was always younger, and he was tiny, and he went to not a boarding school, but went to a Catholic school with all boys, and he was tortured until after his senior year in high school he grew, and then is now about 4 or 5 inches taller than all these kids that tormented him when he was a younger little guy.
One of my brothers graduated 3 years younger than his class.
Oh my gosh.
It worked out well for him because his wife is 3 years older than him. But yeah, so he was a firecracker, just like this character was. Real up for a fight.
Dang.
I was trying to say that, like, I had a train of thought. Okay, yeah. So, that, like, being the little guy in school is already difficult. Like, when you're at a boarding school and there's so many guys around you. So, like, kind of dealing with that sense of possibly even, like, I'm trying to find the right word, like having your masculinity almost stripped from you in a way because you're younger and because kids are years ahead of you, or even I feel like him being younger though could have also benefited a lot of the kids around him, just because I know that I work at a summer camp with 3-year-olds every summer, and I know that being around them really helps me like be able to embrace kind of like the silly sides of myself, or the fun parts that you normally wouldn't be like socially acceptable in regular situations. So having that opportunity to be around younger kids almost gives you kind of the freedom and an excuse, I guess, to kind of be younger sometimes. Yeah.
And it's a lot that they're like, a lot of times with age, there's like developmental milestones. Like, I know for a fact I am not the same person I was sophomore year. Like, so I feel like there's a lot of times that there's a lot of like mental, ideological development that happens in those 3 years. So feeling the pressure to be a lot more mature, while at the same time having a tendency to respond immaturely, but also.
And it's a good 3 year. That's really good.
I also think the boarding school thing is hard. Like, it's one thing if you get to go home and just be surrounded by the people who don't even think about your age, whereas, your roommate's last parting words before they go to sleep are some kind of basically an insult to your age. And I think the situation for this character was really challenging just because he's constantly immersed in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has like at least some people who kind of disregard his age, like his friends, like JP and God, I forgot the other friend. Sean. But they see, like, I think he mentions when he introduces them that they really kind of got over the age difference. But I think the person he struggles most with the age is obviously Annie, considering like he desperately wants to be respected by her, you know, seen as a valid love interest, and she just keeps calling him little boy.
Yeah.
And even she has a problem with the age. Like it seems like at the end when she's she's struggling with her feelings, it's largely in part because he's so young.
Yeah.
Oh, the amount of love woes I've heard. So spot on. It's perfect.
Yes.
His age really showed at the end when he kept tormenting JP about how he asked Annie out. He just kept on tormenting him even though JP was just done with it, and his immaturity really showed. Like he showed there when he kept on going, and then later JP told him that Annie had broken up with him beforehand. I felt his age really showed at that moment. We're out of pizza.
But
But
sorry
yeah,
about that.
that's when I felt his age really showed. That's like other times he was very mature about the whole relationship thing, but that one moment I felt his immaturity wavered because he let his emotions take over.
It was also sort of like it was sort of like a like almost a competition to him. Like he feels like my theory is like he feels like he has to overcompensate. So then he's like, I'm younger than you, and yet I still asked out Annie, and she still likes me. So haha, in your face. Which is also part of why I hated him at that point too. Like, cause he's just like so vain at times, but like it really was like a lot of the times like a competition to him.
And also, I think his age affected the way he viewed Joe, in the sense that, you know, he was obviously nice and courteous to him, but it you'd see it like recurring his thoughts that, you know, basically no homo.
Yeah, yeah.
And I felt that was because A, he's immature, and B, he feels the need to like make himself masculine as possible because he feels threatened by all these older boys around him.
Yeah, I have noticed that whole like aspect of being able to accept things is definitely a younger person trait, if that makes sense. Where like my little sister, when I'm trying to explain things to her that are more like, I guess you call like progressive ideas or whatnot, and she's just like, but why would I care? And I'm like, okay.
Oh my god, that's so annoying. Sorry, little sister.
No, it is. It is.
At the end of the book, though, there was I noticed a little thing in the way, little change in the way Ryan Dean viewed everything. Because throughout the entire book, he's like, I understand he's gay, I like him, but not in a gay way.
You have to keep on saying that.
He has to keep on saying that.
Yeah.
But right at like in the last paragraph or so, he says, I loved Joey. Like I noticed that little change in the way he talked, and I don't know, that one thing just kind of hit me.
This was like him passing through the process of
growing up,
seeing someone that's different than himself, learning to accept it, and realize it's okay to accept it and be okay with it. You know, he had to talk himself through it. It's like, yeah.
It's about becoming comfortable with himself too, his own self-confidence.
Anyone else over there? You haven't read that yet. Yeah, you can.
Do any of you other guys have any comments?
Do you guys want to move on to the next question
Sure.
that we have written down?
Yeah.
Were you guys, I know we asked this one almost in most of them, but were you guys able to predict the end of the book? If yes, then when did you sort of know? If not, in hindsight, what clues were there looking back?
As soon as the knife fight happened, and then also around the time I was reading that, I overheard, I think Leo and Miss Turgel were talking about like how there was some sort of like depressing end, and then coupled with that, no, it's not. I just figured out myself on my own that like, okay, we already have like, and we're we're already seeing like this sort of like homophobia and violent homophobia, and considering it's a depressing ending. It's funny those two. But you can kind of see it like sprinkled throughout, like because it's nice in the sense that it's not like overwhelming, like they hate Joey and whatnot. It's just like weird the way it creeps up on you, kind of the same way in real life. Like you don't realize that like that certain things are issues, because especially if you're one of the people who's not affected by them. But once you like actually like start paying attention, you realize, oh wow, this person's dealing with a lot.
I didn't see, when you ask about like when did you know this was going to happen, but for me, I knew that something bad was going to happen, but probably around the time of the dance thing.
Yeah.
But I did not see what happened coming. Yeah, I felt that that the character, who was murdered and beaten to death I didn't see that happening. His character seemed very, the boy has respected him, and I just, I mean, I understand, like, you're talking about, 2 against 1, thing here, but it just, I didn't see that, like a Matthew Shepard incident occurring to this character. So I was really surprised by that, the way the end was, even though I anticipated it was going to be something horrific.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Like, after reading the Halloween Party, and you kind of got those hints, like when Ryan Dean and Joey share the iPod. I think Ryan Dean says something like, "Oh, I wish I'd done something." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to me that iPod scene was very significant. Especially the name of the song is like, you know who your friends are or something?
Yeah, exactly.
How many friends do you have?
How many friends do you have? And I was like, oh no, something's going to happen to Joey.
Yeah, so after the Halloween Party, I was just like, started speed reading because I was hoping that, they'd find Joey, like, a ways away, alive, hurt, but still alive. And then, you actually get to that point, you're like, okay, well, that happened.
I feel like as soon as they introduce, for me personally, I'm not an observant person, okay? I'm not good at reading for, like, clues, for foreshadowing and whatnot. I can't do that. When people are like, what does this foreshadow? I'm like, I have no idea. Don't ask me that. But if there's a book and there's a minority character or there's, like, something that's significantly different about somebody, I'm just like, okay, that kid's gonna die.
Yeah.
Because authors, YA authors, love killing off the minority character. They just love doing it.
And especially male, like, gay guys. Like, I've noticed that a lot. Like, I've heard about this book as, like, a really good thing for LGBTQ, and I was thinking, well, if it's a really good book for LGBTQ, the gay guy's probably gonna die. But
right, I was like thinking
they tend to do that a lot. But other than that, I was completely not expecting it because, like, you make characters like me, and this gay guy's just like his best friend, and I was like, well, he's a great best friend. I wish I had a best friend that awesome. But
so this is funny because I knew something bad was going to happen very early on because I knew that there was no way this club would have picked a book that was just about school, rugby, Annie, Heartthrob, Megan Heartthrob, rugby. I just there had to be something pivotal that was going to happen in this book, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And I mean, he was pretty good about the foreshadowing. You'll have to look for it again.
Yeah, I will. I haven't read it.
He was pretty good about, he was really subtle, and it was really well done. I loved that about Alex Smith. We should read a David Levithan book because David Levithan's theory is that all of the gay characters get killed off in the important books, and so he wanted to write books where happy things happen to gay characters.
I love David Levithan so much.
So at some point we should think about doing that.
That was kind of my one kind of complaint with the book, that it almost felt like Joey's sacrificed for the sake of Ryan Dean's character development. Now it's done in a very tasteful way, but it's annoying that she was saying that once you see the one minority, and also what you were saying, that once you see the one minority character, you're like, okay, they're gonna kill Tom.
But it's part of it's historically accurate. I mean, when you look at the character development of society, it often comes in the wake of tragedy like Matthew Shepard's. And yeah, I mean, not every, you kind of know, the gay person or the non-white person in a book, something bad is going to happen to them in this kind of genre that we're in. But and there are books where that doesn't happen. But again, I was more surprised at the action, the death, the manner of the death. That was, to me, shocking in this book. anticipating. I didn't. I mean, maybe other people. I mean, I know there was probably foreshadowing because of the whole, Opportunity Hall culture and the violent culture. But I felt like this was a character. Not that you have to be, a specific type of person to have this happen to you, but I didn't feel the way his character developed that, this would happen. Like I just felt like he'd be fast enough to outrun these guys or strong enough to outwit these guys. I more was anticipating either him doing something to himself or something his death occurring through some malicious act that got out of hand.
One response to that, I think, is like because I really understand what you're saying about Joey, and he's built up as this character that like people respect, and he's the peacemaker. He's also captain of rugby, which means he's pretty hardcore.
And he's out.
But that's Ryan Dean's perspective.
Well, that's a good point.
And Ryan Dean is this really, really reliable narrator, so you trust him, and you think that Joey's exactly how he's telling you, but maybe there are more weaknesses, and maybe there's some foreshadowing about that too, because as I'm talking, I'm thinking like how there's that scene where he says to where Ryan Dean says to Joey, like, do you have a boyfriend? And he sort of says, like, well, why would I talk to you about that? So there's more to it, and then the inkling of what happened with the brother to the person he dated, and how obviously there's violence there,
Right.
So maybe there were things about him that not through Ryan
And also,
Dean's
what was
eyes.
the football player's name?
Casey.
I mean, here's a closet gay tough athlete. I mean, how else is he going to sort of... that didn't surprise me as much as it surprised you, because he had to prove that he wasn't gay, even though he was gay.
Oh, that part didn't surprise me.
But the violence coming out of that, because he was sort of introduced as kind of a rough, violent, scary character.
Even though they introduced him as like basically, I mean, they talked about him as basically pretty psychopathic, I was still surprised when they said that was who killed him.
Yeah.
I still found that really hard to wrap my head around. There was a plausibility issue there for me, and I don't know, it was just like, really, I don't know. I don't like to think that our students can kill one another. What can I say?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so extreme, and I sort of was picturing the possibility of him beating him up, but not actually going all the way.
Like the finality of how he was found. I mean, I could see them, like you said, beating him up and taking it too far, but at the time, that all.
Yeah, the fact that it was like almost like a big FU in the way that they did it, where it was like we could stop it at beating this kid to death. We could stop it there, but
then,
instead we're gonna show off how macho and like horrifying we are as human beings by tying him to a tree, because that is a good plan.
You talked about Matthew Shepard. I had to explain to my participants here.
Yeah.
They didn't know who Matthew Shepard was. So you might want to, I don't know if everybody does. Yeah, do you want to fill him in since you brought it up?
You can fill in if you want. If you just explained it, you can give your explanation again.
I can. Fast I explained it. Like literally. Matthew Shepard was a boy who was beaten to death and tied to a fence, and I'm thinking the 90s because I don't really have the date, but I'm thinking that's when it was.
Yeah, because it was after Matthew Shepard was murdered. He was at a bar, and a gay bar, and there were two guys there, and they were pretending, to be interested in him, and they drove off with him, and then they beat him and tied him to a fence post and left him to die, and then he was found, I think the next day, and it was the play that the Laramie Project was written after that. It's a play that chronicles the events of Michael Shepard's life and death, and then that his death is what led to the passage of the first hate crime legislation.
Yeah. Right.
So 1998. Yeah. So I mean, prior to that, the hate crime legislation really wasn't. Today you guys we're used to having, at least in most states, hate crime laws of varying degrees, but they didn't exist, and certainly not to include crimes against the gay and lesbian community.
Yeah, that's kind of that's really bothersome. The fact that it's like the fact that these kinds of things like hate crime laws weren't set in place until '98. Like kids in this school, there are like at least one kid in this school who wasn't born yet. That's kind of terrifying that there was a point. It's not surprising to me, but it's terrifying to me the fact that like my brother is 24, so he was already, like 6 by then. It was kind of scary to me the fact that my brother was a small child in a short period of time when like that kind of thing was not necessarily almost permitted. I have so many issues with our government. I'm sorry.
This book was also written in 2013, and which I think is part of the reason why it seems like a little bit crazy to us, because even though this is like just 3 years later, a lot has happened. I mean, we have freaking gay marriage is finally legalized in all the states now. Like, that wasn't a thing when this book was written. So, back then, not to put it that way, but, there obviously the environment against gays was a lot more, I want to say, a little bit more volatile, and so I could see something like this happening.
I described the book as Looking for Alaska meets Shine, which we did in this book group a couple of years ago, but that the dialogue is written with a Chris Crutcher voice. I don't know if those are references that some of you get, all of you get, or none of you get.
With Chris Crutcher, right?
But obviously, Looking for Alaska, I assume, is easy. But Shine was written by Lauren Miracle, and it's about a hate crime. And it's treated as a mystery, and so everybody tries to pull apart the mystery, and they're all pointing fingers at one another until it's finally resolved. But it's a very similar crime to this. In fact, it's pretty much the same crime as this. And then Chris Crutcher, my favorite Chris Crutcher book is Whale Talk. So if you haven't read it and you're thinking about things to bring or talk about next time, I may talk about those 2 books. I like them.
Have you read Staying Fat from Sarah Burns?
Yeah, there you go. Yes, I have, but obviously I'm a Crutcher fan, so.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
This book really did remind me of Looking for Alaska, in the sense that, like, straight off from the beginning, like, I compared, like, just the school experience, and then it kind of got me thinking about how Looking for Alaska ends, and then I thought about, like, the people that were kind of singled out, and, like, I didn't guess Joey. I thought, like, since it was a girl in Looking for Alaska, I thought it was going to be, like, Annie or something, but...
Yeah, I thought Annie was going to have cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, when she kept saying that, I can't be with you, I assumed it was going to be, like, the next words were going to be, like, because I have cancer.
Fault in Our Stars. YA novel. Like, 1 sentence right there.
I feel like everyone in our generation has read John Green.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, Leo.
Yeah, Leo. Macho man.
Leo did. You know?
What?
Why did you cry?
Yeah, why did you cry?
Alright.
You told me you were very touched. What were you touched about?
The scene where, okay, first off, there's like the whole buildup of like Ryan Dean like specifically said like I won't make any more comics or anything, and like I was like, okay, what's up? And that kind of got me thinking. And then when they like just how they like said how Joey died, which was like just like maybe even a third of a page just filled up, and somehow that was the most touching moment for me, like more than any other book. I don't know how like how they can like do that with a third of a page.
Right.
Yeah. But it like and somehow like it seemed like Joey was above it all, and of course I predicted he would like be dead or something, but somehow I still like it still got to me. I don't I don't know how.
Yeah, because the way he changes up the book in that last section, like what you said, that he removed the comics, all of the Ryan Dean's words become much more sparse. Like Ryan Dean, 14-year-old boy, he was like I don't know, some sort of, I guess, like jubilant way of speaking, and then in the last section it's just very much like matter of fact.
Right. Yeah,
And all
it's not all about me.
exactly,
Yeah.
and all of it just basically combines to hit you like a brick with like what actually happened.
So it's really powerful when you just have a few statements at the top of the page and they end.
Exactly.
That
Shop.
I stopped halfway through reading that. Like halfway through reading that, I was already in tears and I couldn't finish that page. Like
Yeah.
pretty good writing, I guess.
No, definitely.
That's great.
Doesn't any thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, I cried during New Moon.
With the Twilight book?
Yeah.
If anyone's ever read Shipper, that's when I cried.
I cried during the scene with Doc Mom when she sat.
Oh, yeah.
That's the first time she really stood all out. And I mean, again, as a mother of two boys, and just seeing this connection with this someone else's mom, and this is how he was sort of therapeutic to let it all out with her and tell her everything, including the pee. And I was like, yeah. So I laughed and cried on that one, but that was really powerful to me.
I was sad that he couldn't talk for a long time.
Yeah, and that was like a sort of an instrumental moment.
I haven't, so I think I read this book a few months ago, actually, a suggestion to Miss Ludla, and I was like, this is really good. And so when she told me that I had to read it again for book club, I was like, I remember what happened, it'll be fine. Apparently not, because today in school she hands me the book, she's like, read the last 10 pages just as a refresher. So I flip it open, and I read the line, and I'm already, like, not the best day, so was already very emotionally, like, fragile. Walk in the library, she hands me this book, I read just the line, they found Joey later, and I was like, oh my gosh, why are you doing this to me?
I'm so sorry, I didn't realize
Why must you
I was upsetting
put
you
me
so
through
much.
pain? Like, I seem like I'm joking right now, and that's, like, basically just because it was funny, my reaction, but like, obviously it was emotionally harrowing, but like,
I'm sorry, Riley.
like that, and also the scene where Hedwig dies in Harry Potter. Those are the two. Like, sorry if I spoiled something. I just realized that I probably.
You got a Harry Potter shirt in the crowd. I think you're safe on that one.
Yeah, I haven't read You can get it. Yeah,
We're an
can get it.
inclusive club, though. Really, we are.
Right, unless you haven't read Harry Potter, and then like we will spit on you.
Just on this whole what the bit Miss Coogan Russell was talking about with the parent reminded me of how much I love the parents in this book, that they're both fleshed out and not like the perfect parents, but you can tell that they love their children. Like the docs love obviously Annie, and they're just so quirky and funny. And then I just love the way Ryan Dean's mom was trying to like help him along the relationship. But it was so funny, but so heartwarming, because you could tell that she really wanted to help, but just, the way she did it was kind of.
And also the dad, I felt, even though the dad only had that one letter, I felt it like really showed what kind of dad he was. Like, I don't remember the exact thing, but I remember he says, "and some of that shit," or something like that. And I'm like, that's a very good way of describing a guy in one sentence. And I felt that they weren't the perfect parents, but they were very well fleshed. They were fleshed out, and even though they didn't have much dialogue.
Dad it was a musical reference. It was a fun musical reference. It was a good choice. I don't remember what it was, but I remembered liking it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was bad.
I can't remember it. Yeah.
Oh, not finding it. It was,
The Who.
That was the
Was that only 2 questions? We're getting better at this.
Yeah. There's more. All right.
Let's just talk about
How does Opportunity Hall and the rest of the school become a character in Wingman?
What was that?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sorry, I was. How does Opportunity Hall and the rest of the school become a character in Winger?
Oh.
With Opportunity Hall and the rest of the school become a character.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Opportunity Hall has a creepy witch in it.
Oh my God.
It's like,
Favorite
I
character.
understood that.
Who has a
I feel like
relationship
we've
with a
been
guy?
glazing over.
What's the significance of her?
Yeah, like I never,
That was
like I feel like I
amazing.
never like.
Like, I found her as comedic relief.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she was just like, every time she was brought up, I was like, LOL, throwback to that one time. You know, I was never like, oh my god.
She's like
the looming like punishment that he thinks will occur at Opportunity Hall is embodied in his envisioning of who she is.
And then at the end, when he walks in on her and Mr. Farrow, I felt like that was a very good juxtaposition of his prior beliefs of her and what he thought now. I thought that was a very good.
Yeah, and doesn't that happen right before also he starts talking about Joey? Like what happened to him, so then you could connect it to what you were saying about his looming punishment, and it turns out to be Joey dying.
I also think it shows you that the authority figures in Opportunity Hall, like at first they try to be really strict and adhering to the rules, and nobody's even allowed to like eat if they miss dinner in the dining hall. But then all of a sudden it sort of starts to disintegrate, and you see like no one's really in charge of this area where they put the kids that are most likely to get in trouble.
Yeah,
So
I
I
go to
think
the fly zone.
Yeah, well, the adults were a little too busy doing other things, right? One thing I wondered, which doesn't answer the question, was why was Joey an Opportunity Hall? He was like too good.
Yeah, I
He
know.
said that he was a
No,
fighter.
something. No, he's still.
no.
Joey-
Ryan Dean is in
That's why
Oh,
Ryan.
sorry, I forgot about. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about
No,
Joey.
yeah, Joey.
Joey is
No,
a
he was in
fighter.
Opportunity Hall because he beat some up. I think because they were making fun of him for being gay.
Right, I did.
No, it was never explained. It said I don't know why, but he was a fighter.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, because he just seems so much like the kind of person who
Kevin.
the student-body president.
It's Kevin in there.
I think that in its environment it wasn't exactly conclusion.
Joey's roommate. Like he just said that he was a super chill dude.
Didn't he
And,
get
like,
stabbed at some point?
Yeah, no, he
Yeah,
got
he did.
stabbed because
he's the one that got stabbed.
But I remember
Yeah.
he was an O-Hall because he never said he was a fighter.
In a fight with
Was it then? Was sort of like only mentioned.
Nick, it was Casey's roommate.
Oh, is his room? Okay, because I know he was mentioned.
Well, and he was like the super
With the
charismatic
question
guy.
too, the Opportunity Hall is like it's its own place within the school. So you have this whole culture of the school that exists. But then Opportunity Hall is like a separate entity. It's like a separate character from the school. It's like at the end. No one wants to live there initially, and Ryan Dean, by the end, even with everything that's going on, feels like he belongs in Opportunity Hall, and because in spite of all this, like he had found a place there, and it has its own.
Oh, no.
He said that Trask did change him. Like everyone was afraid of Trask changing him at the beginning, but Trask did have an effect on him, and O-Hall kind of had a play in that because since they were always so close, they kind of were let off on a loosely. They were let off the leash. O-Hall had an effect on them as people by just strengthening who they were as a person instead of inflicting some other personality on them. It just made them more whole as a person, but not change them. If that made any sense. No.
Also, Joey.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Ryan Dean ended up there because he'd stolen a phone. Like, so he never. It doesn't sound like he ever fought before. How many friends did he have that year? Like,
Like a period.
it was sort of a transformational move for him. Like he was like either I have to fight or I'm gonna like die here. And he really.
That's because of Annie though, because Annie told him to toughen up as a junior.
Oh yeah, she sort of challenged us.
Annie.
Do you want to talk?
I remember his Chaz. like when Joey's missing, I remember thinking like how weird it was that Chaz and him like just go out searching for Joey. Like before, Chaz would have been like, "Oh, shut up! No way, I'm gonna hang out with you." And like now he was kind of like, "Whatever, I'll go." And that's like he was like he knew he had to do it. Like he had to go and search for Joey with like Ryan Dean. Like I don't understand how to explain it.
Yeah, no, like, I just liked how.
You know, they really became like a family, and that's part of I think what was the issue for me with the ending was that you had all these guys in Opportunity Hall of various degrees of maladaptiveness of some kind, but they sort of they formed a bond together and they fit together, and so even the jerkiest one of all, Ryan Dean's roommate, they're going to go out to look for.
Yeah.
So Joey,
do it.
because that's what you do for your.
One of your own.
That's just the poker group, though. Because there's actually more people in Opportunity Hall. There were football players that he like rarely ever
I
mentions.
thought there was like 18 people.
Oh, it's a Casey football player, right?
Yeah. Casey was the quarterback.
Yep.
Casey. And Nick was like a running back or whatever.
Yeah. And then there's like a lot of more people like outside of the group, like the freshman class when Ryan Dean decides to sit with all the freshmen, and they're like, "Who is this guy?" And it was
that's in the school, but not in the hall.
yeah, in the school too. Like I'm just like there's so much. There's like a bigger school perspective than what Dean often tells.
Yeah.
Man, I wish there was a sequel.
Like Ms. Bronson said, Chas had, they formed a bond because at the beginning Chas was mean to him, just picked on him, and at the beginning Ryan Dean kept saying, "Oh, I'm such a loser, I'm pathetic," and he just kept that mindset throughout the book. But at the end, he asks Chaz himself if he thinks he's weak, and then Chaz says, "No, I think you're the bravest person here," and then I think that also had a profound effect on who Ryan was as a person.
Yeah, I just liked how humanized Chaz was, because when he's introduced, it's like he's introduced as the typical, high school bully who's like, "I'm gonna beat you up, kid." But over a time, you start to realize like he is a person with feelings, especially after Megan cheats on him with Ryan Dean. You see him like actually break down at one point, I think, and then at that point, I was like, "Wow."
When he's walking along in the rain.
Exactly, and you're like, "Wow, this is actually a person."
Screaming Ned. Screaming Ned was amazing.
Screaming Ned.
Yeah. I understood none of that.
The comic relief for that fight. Screaming Ned.
Oh wow, it's late. I was annoyed by the "I'm a loser" over and over again. I don't know if that was. I guess it was. I don't know. It just drove me nuts.
Also, the constant comments about the girls just got annoying. Yeah. Just got so annoying.
Yeah.
Only one word that's
that he can't.
The hot girls.
When it's light.
That's 2 words.
Facial hair.
Yeah.
Isabel's facial hair. Isabel's mustache.
Yes.
Even though she has facial hair.
And it's weird, the fantasies too, like with the flight attendant.
The comic book, the comic face.
I did some of this in audio, and every time I did the audio, I would stop and go back and flip through the pages to see what comics I'd missed, because it really wasn't delivered very well in audio. And then I finally put the audio down and finished it in print, because I was liking the print experience too much.
Oh dear, I listened to it. I didn't even know I was missing.
Oh yeah, no, it's fun. Pick it up and take a flip through.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I missed.
Yeah, that was very comical.
And he just walked away without putting any of his clothes on.
Yeah. Or no, he tried, but he just couldn't.
He tried, and he's like, "Oh well, this isn't how naked. I'm gonna get naked as the flight progresses."
Same.
I felt the comic pages were very like Scott Pilgrim-esque. Like they just reminded me of how like a bit more vulgar than Scott Pilgrim, but I felt like the writing style, the comic style, the drawing style was just Scott Pilgrim, and I like that a lot.
Did it feel like a musical? Like all of a sudden you're like going along with your story, and then they drop into song, only they drop into comic?
Yeah, and also like I loved how there was the comic as a way of delivering, and then also the plays, like his inner monologue
The
plays. The plays were
yeah.
hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
I loved
But I
those.
felt like they got out a good amount of like how he was conflicted with himself, because at the beginning Ryan Dean West 1 and 2 were on the same page, and as the book progressed, they started getting more and more different, and then Joey came in and was like, "Oh, I'm not here. I'm just the voice of reason."
Your left frontal cortex messing you with your head.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it felt to me also a run of a little of Ned Declassified School Sabbatical, if anyone can remember that. Like, he had, like, Ned, the main character, would have, like, these little interludes in his head and have, like, skits play out similar to Ryan Dean. It just struck me
Or
as
like the
being so
beginning of
smart.
Drake and Josh.
Yes.
Where they're just talking
Yeah.
about the
Or like
same story from
Scrubs.
two perspectives.
Yeah.
No, I can follow this. I cannot.
Have you ever watched Scrubs?
Yeah.
So, are there any other questions, or do we have time for any questions?
7, or well, it's the hour. So
Yeah, I mean, but I think we did a really good job, actually, didn't we?
Yeah.
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 we're getting better at this.
Oh, Leo wants to talk about Joey.
Yeah, he's pretty great.
Joey was a great character. I like
Yeah.
Joey a lot.
Especially how also again he felt so fleshed out. Like all the characters in this book felt really fleshed out, except with the exception of Casey. But I think he was just supposed to kind of represent
I
that.
think he was just a brute.
Yeah, he was just a brute, and this kind of represented that evil that kind of lurks in the behind. All the high school fluff and fun. There's still dark crap happening.
Like every character had enough backstory to make it understandable.
Yeah.
Like no one was overflushed, no one was underflushed. It was very well done.
Anyone else have any other comments, or are we gonna start another question, or are we gonna leave?
Bring your favorite book of the last year, since last June, and we'll talk about that next month, which will be fun. It's really fun. It goes super fast.
Yeah. Oh, we're probably yeah, any book.
Bring a book that you loved and book talk it. Like pitch it for summer reading.
Yes, summer reading.
I just sort of had that epiphany today. It's like, oh my God, it's May. I have to make my list.
It's gonna be May.
So I will take your notes over at our next meeting, and I will definitely take those into consideration. Our requirements for summer reading here is we have some very weird requirements. We have to have a balance of YA and adult books. We have to have books that have pretty much been published in the last year or two. We have to be mindful of making sure that diversity issues of equity and diversity are addressed in the list. And we try to take as many recommendations from adolescents as possible. So you are welcome to join on that list.
Yeah. Recommends all of Hopkins' books.
And actually, you mentioned, Michelle, diversity, and I just reminded me a little off topic that I want to put in a plug for if you did not watch the TL Newsnight in April. There is a recording of the discussion. We had it was a couple of authors and a librarian and a technology person who all had some wonderful things to say about why it's so important for us to support, of course, diversity of all types in books, both so people can see themselves in books and so that people can understand what other people are like. And anyway, I would just highly recommend watching that recording.
I feel like I got a glimpse into the head of a very immature 14-year-old boy by reading this book.
Right.
Yeah.
Jane, could you send a link for that?
Sure. Yeah. It's
That's a good idea.
It's called TL Newsnight, and it happens once the second, the third Monday of the month, and we always record it. And I will send you the link.
Great.
And usually, I would say that the discussions are good, but they're mostly for librarians. This one, I think, would be. All of us who were there agreed with you. Students would really enjoy and benefit from all.
And one thing I did want to say, just I imagine that the book would have been like really like it's interesting now, but so much more interesting from Joey's point of view.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's interesting.
That would have been a complicated book.
Abruptly, I'm afraid.
Have any of you guys read Song of Achilles? They could do that with like the characters who died.
I haven't read that.
I haven't, but I'm gonna write it down now so that I know.
Pitch it next month.
Tell us about that. Along with your other idea.
How many people is this going to be their last session? I know Zoe. Who else do we have was a senior? You too. Wow.
Well, we have Victoria, Aditya.
So we'll have 3 left.
After
We're
this, I'm never
currently
reading
here.
another book.
So we
Wow, Leah.
so we have to work hard to recruit more next year.
Yeah.
Maricosta also, of course, I hope that
We're gonna get cake.
most of our students are seniors, so
Yellow cake.
It's gonna be hot by then.
A book.
Guess what we're doing?
I did one of the book pieces here. Try to
I
find
can't
cake.
think of one.
Michelle, what about your group? Are they seniors? Oh,
No, I've got youngins. All right.
So I'm going to stop the recording unless someone wanted to say anything else on the record.
I'll bring cake next time.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Actually, I was
We
like,
should bring
we
cake.
need
You're
cake.
retiring. We have a bunch of seniors who are leaving. We should bring cake next time. We should all bring cake.
Cake.
Okay.
Regardless
all right.
of distance.
Okay. Well, see, I was thinking virtual, and then I wouldn't have
I don't know how to do virtual cake. Like, you know what? If
Okay,
there's cake, let's eat it.
Google, get on that. All you techie kids.
Okay, I'm stopping the broadcast.
All right.